Welcome to Toffee TV. I'm joined by David Maddock from The Mirror. Let's just, before we go anywhere with any of these conversations, let's just get something out now, right? You're not a Liverpool fan.
That is actually true. I know that. I know Evertonians think I am, partly because of Twitter, and we've just been talking about that off air. Twitter is just promoting the newspaper that I work for. In fact, I didn't even go on Twitter for about 10 years because it was just work. And then eventually they were like, you've got to do Twitter, you've got to promote the work that you do. So that's it, and I'm promoting the work that I do. So therefore I promote both Liverpool and Everton. But Evertonians do kind of, because obviously Liverpool have been winning, you're promoting positive stuff about them. Evertonians think that. I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm a lifelong fan of a much smaller club who are actually doing pretty well at the moment.
Come on, tell everyone.
No, well, you know, I like to keep it secret. No, I'm actually, people do know, I'm a Crewe fan. I'm a lifelong Crewe fan. I even played for them when I was a kid, when they were garbage.
Funnily
enough, when I played for them, they had some junior teams, and they only played in the local district leagues, like Sandbach and Sunday District League or something like that, and they were rubbish. They didn't even win that, so they were pretty bad. But yeah, that was they're my team, and actually I think we're second at the moment. So.
They run well.
Yeah,
they
so
run
doing
well.
all right.
It's not a red.
Yeah,
just because it's job, and because listen, we know that Liverpool attract more stories than Everton, so that's the way it is. So
well, it's when you're winning, you know. That's the thing. Liverpool have been winning the last few years, haven't they? And funnily enough, that's coincided with me I've only been on Twitter for about not even 18 months. So.
Right, yeah.
So and Liverpool have been winning in that time. So, and you know, I mean, to be fair, Everton have done much better than people realise over that period as well. But you know.
Predominantly, that's what you're promoting your work. Right, let's leave it there. It's not a red. That's it. It's done. What have you made of Everton so far this season, Dave? Because I think we come into the season full of optimism, the way we finished last season, and I think a lot of people with money spent in the summer thought, well, you know, they've done well at the end of the season, so you'd hope that they'd kick it on, and the opening 6 games hasn't gone to plan.
I think it's too early at the moment too, and it, you know, this is difficult, isn't it? Because obviously, fans want to see instant, you know, reaction. They want to see instant results. They want to see instant sort of evidence of development. And clearly that's not been the case, but it's not the disaster that a lot of people have been portraying as well. It was a difficult summer for Everton because. They made a couple of very good signings. They did well to get Gomez, which was, you know, he's a good player, a very good player, and they did well. They did well to make that permanent for a decent price. They also, and I know I'm going to get some criticism for this, but I think they did really well to sell Idrissa Gueye for the price that they sold him for.
Right,
and people are forgetting he's 30 years old. I think it's his birthday today, actually. Yeah. He's 30 years old, and they got almost 30 million for him. That is a crazy amount of money for a 30-year-old. And you know what? They've missed him in the first 6 weeks of the season. They have, there's no question. But by the end of the season, who's to say that, you know, a 30-year-old playing every game, his legs are going to last out for a whole season. And I'll give you an example. You look at Manchester United and Matic there. He's a similar age. And he looks to me like his legs have gone. And he looks like, I think he's a year older than Idrissa. And he looks now like they need to start phasing him out. So what happens if this was the season that Everton needed to start phasing Idrissa out? You know, I'm not saying, I think, you know, he's got maybe a couple of years left in him, but maybe not playing every week. And if that's the case, and you've got 30 million for him, and they went out and they signed a couple of replacements, and they got someone similar age who only cost 8 million. Not quite the same position, but they've made a massive profit on that, and then they sign a younger player who they can phase in.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to pronounce it. That's why it's
Gbamin.
Gbamin.
Let's go with that.
Gabamim, or anyway.
JP.
JP, he does it because he can't pronounce it either. Yeah. So he's 24 years old, good pedigree. Had already, even though he wasn't ready for the Premier League, he put him in a couple of games.
Yeah.
Sadly, he gets injured, and so that has unbalanced what his plan was. But for me, the plan was fine, and in fact, logical. You get rid of a 30-year-old who is maybe in his final season of being an absolute, plays every single game. And you replace him with, you get some experience in, but you also then get a younger player who can develop over the season. So you can rotate between the two, and it's sound until he gets injured, and then you've got a problem. So.
And also losing Gomez as well the last couple of games.
And Gomez has been injured as well. And like, for instance, Gomez would have been a key player against Sheffield United, let's face it, because he can open up, he's great on the ball, he's got time on the ball. And against those sort of sides, I think he looked really good last season against that sort of team. So I think injuries have been a bit of a problem. And I also think that, going back to what I was saying originally, the summer was difficult because there were a couple of key areas where they didn't get players, and they tried, and it's clear Silva knows that that's a problem.
Yeah.
And
centre back.
Yeah, obviously, and you and I have had conversations about this, and they've got big problems at centre back because the partnership they have, which seems to be the only partnership of Mina and Keane, to me doesn't really work. And if that doesn't work, and that's the main partnership through the season, then you've got a problem.
Do you think Everton will try to get a centre back in January?
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone with pace.
Obviously. Yeah. I just think somebody who can be a tiny bit more commanding, because I don't think, for all the fact that Mina is massive, and you'd expect him to be a dominant player, he's not. He's not. He doesn't seem to be able to take control and be a leader. And I don't think, I think Michael Keane is a very good player, but I'm not sure that he is that sort of dominant centre-half either. And last season, when he was playing, and when we talked about this, towards the end of the season, him and Zuma actually sorted it out.
Yeah.
They struggled. They struggled to get set pieces sorted, but eventually when they did, and the two of them came together, and they had no problems with set pieces, and then maybe the last 3 or 4 months of the season. And him and Zuma, because Zuma was that sort of more commanding guy who would take responsibility and come up and head, win the ball, allow Keane to play. And Keane is a good footballer, but he needs someone alongside him.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mina is that player. And
I think they're both, the way they both are, they probably suit playing with someone different.
Exactly.
You probably get the best out of Mina alongside maybe a Zuma, and we certainly seen that with Keane last season.
So you need a leader alongside either of them, and there's not that. And the only other alternative is Holgate, who I personally rate highly, and I think he will become a very good Premier League centre half, because I think he does have that bit of aggressive leadership in him, but he's still very young. So you can't expect him. You can't say, you've got these two guys who've got far more experience than you, but I want you to go and lead them. You can't really do that. So, although he played in midweek and he did all right. He did well, and I like him. So maybe it's time to have a bit of a gamble there. But
he's got the pace, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does have pace, and he's aggressive as well, isn't he? He will have a go at people, and which is looking back. There was a game at Anfield, 2 games at Anfield. There's a cup game as well, and the game at Anfield when I thought he had a really, really good game, and he really took the game, got really aggressive with all of the Liverpool front line, but he had a bit of a ding dong.
With Firmino.
Firmino, and I was just trying to think of the words to sort of say what happened.
He didn't back down,
No, he definitely. He put him in the advertising boards, didn't he? And there was a bit of a row about which actually probably wasn't true about the racism thing, but he was aggressive the whole time.
But it also didn't put him off his game either.
Exactly. He actually went in his face and did well. I like that. So when you've got a problem at centre half, it undermines everything. So like Everton wouldn't have lost against Sheffield United had not Mina, and I've talked about this, and I don't want to criticise him, but he's 6'8". He's the biggest guy on the pitch. There's a corner. He's standing there. First of all, he's not marking anyone. Like 6'8". You've got to be marking their biggest.
6'5" for people pick.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, sorry. But he's about 6'12".
Sorry,
massive.
I am exaggerating. But actually, he is about 6'5", 6'6", isn't he? So, but he was and I actually checked. He was the biggest player on the pitch.
Yeah.
And so he's got to be the dominant one. There's a corner. He's not marking anyone. He's kind of standing in his own 6-yard box, not looking at the ball. The ball comes over. How far is it out to the corner flag at Everton? The pitch is 90 yards wide, isn't it? So it's like 45 yards. It comes over, and he's watching it, hits him and goes in. Yeah. Like, you're an international centre half who is massive. You've got to go and attack that ball, and he just doesn't. And to me, that says there's a problem there. That goal killed Everton because the confidence went. Silva then says, and quite rightly, came out afterwards and said, second half, some of his players were hiding. In fact, said a lot of the players were hiding. And I agree. I think they were, and I think he was right to come out and say that because they didn't take the responsibility that you needed to do in that situation. But ultimately, they were undermined by a weakness at a set piece again. And you are going to constantly be undermined until you resolve that issue at centre half. It's simple, That is the problem.
It's interesting to see whether or not he considers Mason Holgate alongside one of those two, whether he goes to 3 at the back and puts him in for pace, or whether or not he just tries to work on Keane and Mina until January, and if it isn't sorted out, obviously. The pressure is on. I just want to talk about Marco Silva for a minute, because obviously he come into Everton, and I don't think he's the media's favourite, and I'm not including you, and I'm just saying just a general thing. He's not held in great esteem by Sam Allardyce and his mates at Sky, who always like to give him a little bit of a kicking. And I personally don't think the club have done enough to sell his character to us, to tell us who he is, to show us who he is. But what have you made? What do you make of Marco Silva? Because obviously you have dealings with him with press conferences and things. What have you made of the man himself first and foremost? Because I feel like 16, 17 months on, I still don't really know anything about him.
Yeah, and actually, that's you make a really massive point there, and I agree. I couldn't agree more in that the Everton fans just do not know who Marco Silva is. You look at him and you ask, what sort of personality is he? What character is he? When he came out at the weekend and he said to me that that the players were hiding, and I was like, whoa, and I was impressed because he was being honest, and he actually was prepared, quite rightly, to have a go at his team, and he did, because they weren't delivering what he wanted. And it kind of showed a bit of character that maybe we've not seen before. But, I chat to him, but don't know him very well at all, just like you, because we've not really seen the man. But you do speak to him in press conferences, after press conferences, and he's actually got more personality, has more about him than perhaps the Everton fans see, because they get to see very little of him. And I think there is a problem in that it's time for the fans to know about their manager and know who he is, what his philosophy is, what his personality is. What is his philosophy? I believe from talking to him that he wants to play an Everton brand of football. And I say that meaning Everton in terms of historically, Everton have always been a club that has played decent, attractive, attacking football, and I think he wants to do that.
Right.
I genuinely do. And I think he's tried, and he even at the weekend, Everton played some. Just in moments, played some brilliant football. You kind of forget that in how bad the second half was. First half, there were a couple of moments when they completely opened Sheffield United up with quick passing, interchanging, and it was like, oh, that was good. But it was just a couple of moments. He wants to do that as a team, as a club, but nobody really knows that. If I was to ask you, what is your from watching, and you've had dealings with the club. What is your impression of what his philosophy is?
Well, I can only really go back to, obviously my eyes tell me what he wants, but the players don't necessarily. At the moment we're too slow, and I know that isn't something he wants us to be, but we are. But anything about his vision, I can only really go back to the very first day he signed, when he done a 15-minute interview at the club website saying, we're going to play 4-3-3. Well, we don't play 4-3-3. No. And that he said that's his preferred formation. Why don't we play 4-3-3 if that's what you want to play? So the club have never put anything out, or they've never allowed him to sit down, like say with yourself, and just gone, David, like for you to go, Marco, you said that you wanted to play 4-3-3. How come you never play it?
Yeah.
And let him say, well, the reason why we don't play it is because of it. There's none of that. So I could sit here with you and go, hey, I don't really know his Everton style. I could tell you what he was like at Watford and what he was like at Hull and Olympiacos by looking and reading stuff. But with my eyes tell me we're a little bit of a conundrum, because we don't seem to have developed the style. And I don't know where we're going, because the manager's not said anywhere. It's not being portrayed.
And to me, that is really important, that you do get an idea of what your philosophy is. And maybe, in part, let's be honest, one of the problems, without question, was that his English wasn't good enough, so he couldn't convey it, and he struggled to. And even now, there are times when he speaks, and I don't quite grasp what he says. But to be fair to him, he's worked really hard on his English, and he is much, much better, and he's now able a little more. But also, I'm not sure the club are promoting him in the right way. I'm not sure they're giving him the platform that he actually needs to actually connect with the fans. Maybe the club need to go through the fans more, to do more forums with Silva, to do more stuff like this, with you, even with me, to do sit downs and talk about what his philosophy is. Just picking up on points you're saying, he does want to play 4-3-3, there's no doubt. And I don't think he can yet, because he just doesn't have the players, or he doesn't. Maybe he's got the players now, but they're not yet ready. Okay. So Gabberman's injured, Gomez is not fit at the moment. The likes of Iwobi and Keane are not yet slotted into the side, although Iwobi's come in, and obviously he will play. And I think eventually he can. Particularly when Keane settles in, when Iwobi settles in, and then they get the players back. I think they can play 4-3-3 more often, but at the moment he's trying to fit around players rather than fitting players into his system. And ultimately, your manager has to have a philosophy, and then you've got to fit players into that philosophy. I
was going to say that'd be a criticism that I would have of him, and I really like Marco, and anyone who watches this will know. Sometimes I get a bit of stick for defending him, but I just think you've got to give people an opportunity. But I would agree with that totally. At times, he's allowing players to dictate how we play rather than him. And I look across the park, and I don't really, there's big differences in the two personalities of the manager. But I know that when Klopp went into Liverpool, and Liverpool were quite similar to what Everton are at the moment. They were at the time. Liverpool was 7th and 8th when Klopp went in there, so it was very similar. But he went in and went, this is the way I play. You're going to try and get the way I play, and it worked to the first season was like that, wasn't it? He was eighth when he took over, 30 games in charge, he was still eighth. But in that summer, he bought players to help him, and each year he's bought players who go into it. But I think Marco's still suffering from exactly what you've just said there. Looking at the players he's got and going, they can't probably play the way I want them, so we're going to play this way. Someone like Sigurdsson, you know, Gylfi Sigurdsson, 15 goals last season, 8 assists or whatever, you know, good season, good player, but does he do what Everton need him to do in a 4-3-3? No. But is he good enough to give him a free role on the pitch? No. And that's where we're caught.
I can't disagree with that. And I think I have to kind of word this carefully, but I wouldn't think that Silva going forward would see Sigurdsson as part of his plans ultimately. As much as he is a very good player, there's no doubt he's got a lot of talent, but he's not. He does, for a start, he doesn't fit that system. That's quite simple. And you know, if your manager has always had a philosophy and a system, and a player doesn't fit it, then they don't survive, because there's no way you know you're ripping it up. The problem Silva's got is that I don't think he believes in the personality of Sigurdsson, if I'm honest. I don't think he thinks Sigurdsson has the big enough personality to impose himself on the big games. I think this is my interpretation. Right? I think he believes that Sigurdsson perhaps is not a strong enough character, you know, in that sense. To be able to say, okay, he doesn't fit my system, but he's such a good player that we will, you know, adapt the system because he's a leader or whatever. I don't think he's a leader, is he? And he was at Spurs and didn't quite impose himself there. Goes back to Swansea and he's looks a fantastic player, but you know, the scrutiny at Everton is bigger than Swansea. The demands are bigger, and is he that sort of personality? Because that's what it's all about. And he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong. But is he that personality? I don't believe Silva believes that. But the problem he's got, he's still an important player in that squad, because you know, it's not a massive squad. He didn't get all the players. Obviously, you're not going to get all the players you want, because I think he inherited a squad that it needed so much work. Funnily enough, you drawn the comparison with Klopp. Klopp had exactly the same. He had a squad that was absolutely diabolical. It was worse than Everton's squad at the time, as you say, quite rightly. Everton had a better squad then, and he took 2 years to get anywhere near the squad that he wanted, Klopp. And I think the same with Silva. It will take at least 2 years to get anywhere near. So another 2 transfer windows, the January and the summer, before he gets anywhere near. And the problem is, going back to what I said earlier, they've got weaknesses in fundamental positions. You've got a centre half down. There's no doubt. I mean, they did try. You know, let's face it. They tried to get Zuma. They tried to get Smalling. They and both of those would have been great signings. I know Smalling has his critics, but I think he would be more of a leader than they've got at the moment.
And he's got pace, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he can. Yeah, he's got pace. And and actually, pace is the thing that Silva desperately wants. And he's tried. You can see what he tried to do. He's tried to get it. Keane's got pace. Iwobi's got pace. He's tried to bring. I think Gabberman's got pace. Although we've not seen that yet. But I think
he's quick.
I think he can be. And but there's no goal scorer, and they tried to get a goal scorer. You know, there's no goal scorer. I'm not sure Keane is an out-and-out goal scorer either. I think he probably sees him in a 4-3-3, not as his centre forward. Personally, I don't think Keane.
He's only 19.
And he can develop. But I think you buy him to play, and it's what happens with a lot of young strikers. They play in a 4-3-3 in a wider position, and then as they mature and progress, they become more central. And his numbers aren't there as an out-and-out goal scorer. Obviously, as a 19-year-old. And Calvert-Lewin, for me, great centre forward, not an out-and-out goal scorer either. They need down the spine of the team. They're bringing Gabberman, still can't say
Gabberman.
Gabberman, sorry. You know what? I actually looked it up and learned how it should be said, and then I've still can't say it. But he's going to take a season to settle in. Yeah, so basically, you've now got a spine of a team where there are issues and obviously, especially because he got injured. Delphi's an experienced player, and he's a good player. He is a very, very good player. So, again, going back to what I said earlier, the logic was there because you get a young guy in who can eventually take over, and you bring in experience to cover for the loss of Idrissa, and to me that was great.
That made sense,
but they didn't make the signings in the other areas. So Silva's got a problem. He needs the players that he doesn't really fit into his system. He still needs them. Schneiderlin doesn't fit into his system at all. He's not mobile enough.
No.
And funnily enough, I watched Manchester United v West Ham last weekend, and I watched Matic, and I was looking at him and think, fucking hell, he's Schneiderlin. He is Schneiderlin. Yeah. He's okay, but he doesn't bring that much, you know.
They do. I said this on our Final Word show. They do their job. They do a job which is just knocking it sideways, and the numbers look good. Yeah. But actually, it's not what the team needs. So you couldn't say Schneiderlin, like you watched the match on Saturday, the Sheffield United game, you couldn't say Schneiderlin was 3 out of 10, he was horrendous. Because he wasn't, and his numbers were great.
Yeah.
But he actually just, where he plays doesn't help Everton.
No.
Because he isn't, like you just said, the mobility is the key thing now in the Premier League. Matic is, I watched West Ham United Sunday, and I thought, when I looked at United, I was thinking, these look a little bit like Everton. They've got some good players. But for one reason or another, the manager hasn't got the right mix together, and they're not doing the right things.
It's actually the perfect analogy. United and Everton are in the same boat at the moment, and actually they're going to be around the same in the table for me personally, because I think United don't have a goal scorer. They just do not have a goal scorer at all. They've got some good players, and Everton have got. Look, they've got 3 or 4 very, very good attacking players. Richarlison can be absolute quality, still very young, can be absolute quality. I think Keane could be, Iwobi could be.
Like Bernard's brilliant.
Yeah, Bernard, I love him, but he's not a goal scorer. No. So, and United have got exactly the same. They've got some fantastic. I mean, I love Martial, but he's never going to be that, 25 goal. No. I mean, certainly not at the moment, at least. And Everton are kind of in transition, but mostly because it's going to take 3 or 4 windows to get the players they want. They've got a decent director of football who clearly knows his business. There's no doubt. You can see what he's been trying to do. It takes time, and they've still got players on the books that they still haven't got rid of. I was looking at the squad this morning, and I'm thinking, they've still got 4 or 5 players who are on massive money that are out on loan currently. And they're paying 3/4 of the wages. And no club these days can sustain that.
No.
So,
those issues are there, aren't they, for all to see. But I mean, when I look at the league table, you look at stuff, and I look at Everton's squad, and there's Leicester are in vogue at the moment. Everyone's made up with Leicester, but I don't think Leicester are much better than Everton. I think what Brendan's done is what Brendan Rodgers has done is got a way of playing, and they're all buying into it. If they lose Vardy, they're in massive trouble. If they lose Maddison, they're in trouble. If they, the centre, I think Leicester are poor at the back, but they're doing really well at the moment. So that gives me confidence that Everton, if they can get a way of playing and sustain it, then they're not going to be a million miles away either from the United, like you've just said. I think Everton are in that pack at the moment with West Ham. I think they're very much the same. When you look at the Premier League, there's Liverpool and City who are miles ahead of everybody, and then I think Spurs, for me, is still the third best side. But anyone from Arsenal, Chelsea, all of those are all in a little bit of flux, and I think that's what's driving the frustration at Everton, I think, from the fans, because you're looking and going, there's an opportunity to get into Europe this year. Now, at this moment, it sounds mad because we're not playing well. We've just lost our home to Sheffield United. but there's still 32 league games left, and the Everton are 3 points off third or fourth or something at the moment. Yeah. But when you take all that aside and back to Marco Silva, because that's where all the heat seems to be, and you've just given some great reasons why the club aren't doing and the team aren't doing what they should be doing. But have you seen enough of him in your job to think that Everton need to not persist with him, because that sounds wrong. Everton need to back him and just be nice and calm at the moment?
My interpretation of the last week is he himself has looked at it and he's gone. He knows he's light in his squad. He knows he definitely is, and he knows its key positions. He knows he lacks a leader. He doesn't have a leader. Gomez will take responsibility, by the way, because he'll take responsibility by
getting the ball, yeah.
And he'll be brave on the ball, and
that makes a difference.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference. So we want him back, and hopefully he will be back. Hopefully this weekend he'll be back. But he knows he's light. He knows he's got problems with a leader. Delph, he hopes, will step up. And actually, Delph came out after the game and did take some responsibility there and said, look, it's not good enough, and it's not the manager, it's us. We have to. So, which is a good sign. He knows the next 3 league games. Tough, it's a tough run of games when you've got a weakness at set pieces.
Yeah.
So, Burnley will exploit your weakness at set pieces. City, it's a really tough game. So he's got 3 big games. He had a midweek cup game, whereas if he lose that, then all bets are off.
Yeah.
So he's come out and he's gone, right, you shouldn't criticise your players, but we've got this situation. What am I going to do? And he goes, fuck it, I am gonna tell the truth. So he did. He said some players were hiding. It's not good enough. He basically said, Sheffield Wednesday, this is it. There's no more hiding. This is the moment of truth. He basically came out and said, this is the moment of truth. What have you got? You can hide behind excuses. You can moan about what's going wrong, and we'll get onto this. You can blame other people, or you can stand up and take responsibility. Now, it wasn't the greatest performance at Sheffield Wednesday, but it was they won. They were solid. They created chances. They probably could have killed the game off and actually made it a really good performance. Some people came out and took responsibility, which was a great sign. Some players stood up, whereas they've not. Like Holgate, for me, played well. Sidibe did okay. They've shown enough. So Silva has shown he's got something.
Yeah.
And he's maybe laid a little marker down with his squad. Now, there are other issues. So what does he do now? City next. They can't expect to win that game.
No.
But what he's got to do is now show character in that game. He's got to say, right, we've won a game. Now it's time for character. It doesn't matter whether they win or lose against City. Nobody's going to get sacked if you lose against City. It matters if you lose 8-0.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so he's got to say, like, you and I had a conversation on Twitter, and under David Moyes, when City were a good side, winning leagues and everything, under David Moyes, they had a spell of 12 games and they won 9. And that's when they'd already won a league in that period.
Yeah.
And they had some fantastic players. Everton didn't give a shit. They were like, in your face. They didn't. They didn't care about reputations. No. They won it. They won at the Etihad as well as at Goodison. It wasn't just Goodison, but they used Goodison. Fans were up for it. Atmosphere. Moyes was fronting up their manager on the touchline, if you remember.
Mancini.
There was a game I mentioned. It was early in the run before City had won the title, but they had the Brazilian centre forward Rabino. And he came on as a sub after 8 minutes, and you could see he wanted to get off because he was like, "What is this place? What is going on? These fans, this ground, this team. I don't want to be here." And he was off after about 60 minutes, and it was like they battered them. There was another game, I think, when Fellaini absolutely bossed it.
Yeah, we beat them 2-0. Him and Pienaar were in the centre.
And that was a day I thought, he could be another Vieira, this lad. And it's a shame he never did become another Vieira, but it was like, there are moments, and you don't have to win, but you need to produce the
character.
So, like, let's see whether Silva, now the next step is, okay, we won a game, it's kind of a free hit so long as they don't lose 8-0.
Yeah.
So let's see if there's character. Yeah. You know, it's character you need.
And this is it, I mean, under Moyes, Everton were very good. I remember talking on Man City, I remember us getting beat 3-0 at home by Wigan in the quarter-final, which was horrendous.
It was.
And a week later, we played Man City at home and beat them 2-0, and they were for the title. For the title, we beat them.
They were first at the time, weren't they?
You know, and we had Jan Mucher in goal. He looked like he'd won a competition to be in goal, and we kept the clean sheet. So, yes, City have got fabulous players. Yes, when you watch them, you pair because they're so good. But Everton have to go out at the weekend and stand up and be counter, get the crowd engaged and put in a performance. And if Everton put in a performance and work hard and lose, I think the fans will go, all right, they're one of the, if not the best team to watch in the Premier League, if not the one of the top two. And we have to take that into Burnley then, which will be a different kind of game. It'll be blood and thunder, and we'll have to stand up and be counter. But we went to Burnley last year and won 5-1 with a
absolutely.
So, you know, Everton are capable of that, but only capable of that if every player stands up. And I don't think we did last Saturday. I think you're right, the goal. I think we were okay. It was too easy against Sheffield United for 40 minutes. And then when we went 1-0 down, it was too easy to hide. And in the second half, it was just like, you have it. I don't want it. You have it. And he's absolutely right to come out and say no one took responsibility. I mean, just again, I know I keep going back to Marco, but I'm just trying to get a point across. But you actually spent some time with him away from even writing pieces about him. You'd gone into Finch Farm and spent some with a few other journalists and spent a bit of time. What is his personality like? What is he like? Because he comes across. Ped's made this point a couple of times on you know, when he does his press conference, he comes out and he leans forward in his arms. Body language is like he's very guarded. And I know you can kind of 50-50 it and go language. So is he comfortable in his own language? You know, I know. Ped always references Emery because the London press say when he can converse in his own language, he's great, he's dead engaging, but he doesn't come across in English very well. And I know Pochettino was like this early on. He didn't do anything in English, but actually when you speak to him in English, he's quite engaging and funny. And so what's Marco like? Is he closed, or does he smile, or, you know, because we don't see any of this. We see a very stern.
You know what? He does smile, and he is quite funny. He can be quite funny. He is intense. There's no doubt about it, because he is totally immersed in football. He is intense. The language is an issue.
Right.
It is an issue. When he was saying, and he just came out and said the players were hiding. He actually said the players were widing because he's still not quite got the language. We corrected him, and he did then say hiding. But his language is not there to convey his intelligence as a manager, because he quite clearly is. I think he's tactically relatively sophisticated. I think he thinks deeply about the game, and I think he has more of a personality than his language still allows him to express. But I believe that he's getting better. There's no doubt. He's actually spent a lot of time learning. And when he first came in, he could barely speak English. I mean, to be honest, he really
struggled.
Now he speaks English, but still there are times when it's a bit baffling. Not as bad as Emery, who just baffles me totally. Every time I've interviewed him, he's like, it's gibberish. You know, it sounds English, but it isn't. You know, and I'm not criticising him for that, because he's learning. You know, and he speaks far better English than I speak Spanish. But Klopp used to talk in riddles. You know, when he first arrived at Liverpool, it sounded great, and then you'd go through the transcript, and it was like, it doesn't actually make much sense. You know. But you know, now he is sophisticated in his language. So let's give Silva the benefit of the doubt. And if you appoint a foreign manager who's not completely, totally familiar with the English language, then I think you have to accept. You have to accept he's going to learn, and it will hold back his personality. The biggest problem I see is he got people on side at the club. Right. There was a story came out in one of the papers. I think it was in the Times, and it was after the defeat, and it was clearly from an agent. It was clearly dropped by the agent of a player, probably one who's not playing or who's probably. I don't want. Let's not narrow it down too much, but probably someone with a London-based agent,
right?
Because the story came from London, not from
part
of our patch.
Yeah.
So, dripping a bit of poison, saying the players are losing faith in him. He's doing too much on the training ground. They're spending all the time doing set pieces. Hang on a minute, let's defend him for a bit. I know the fans have been against Silva, but Everton have had a weakness at set pieces. They resolved it last season. It's come back this season. Now, if you're a player and you're showing a weakness at set pieces, you cannot criticise with the managers getting you on the training ground saying, right, we are gonna practice set pieces until it's sorted. So if you don't want to spend hours on the training ground, sort out the set pieces. Don't complain. Don't say, oh, it's too boring. Get on the training ground, sort it out, show strength and resilience during a game. So for me, that's Silva actually saying to the players, right, we're doing this. Don't care. You are doing this. Yeah. And then he came out after the game and went, you're hiding. We're doing this. This is our moment of truth. We're going to go for it. So maybe there's more personality there than he's able to show. And I've seen at press conferences, he'll come out, he'll do his press conference. He can be a bit intense. Language is a bit of a problem. He'll never hide. Loads of managers I know, they'll hide. You ask them a question and they're like, oh, you're not asking me that question. And you get to a point when you know you can't ask questions because it's a waste of time. He'll never do that, Silva, so fair play to him for that. He goes off and then does some TV and he comes back, and when he does that, he'll always stop and have a little chat and he'll try and joke and stuff like that. Sometimes it can be a bit embarrassing because, they've been beaten and stuff. Yeah. But I think he's got more about him than we're getting to see. Okay. I mean, I don't know him. I'm not claiming to. Yeah. I'm certainly not saying I'm a friend of his or anything like that. I'm not. But I've warmed to him a little bit because I think he's shown a bit of personality, whereas even in his first year, I was thinking he's got no personality either, Okay. But I think a lot of it is the language. And I think he is quite an intense manager. But then, David Moyes was an intense manager. And he didn't often joke, Moisey.
No,
he didn't often. Sometimes I wondered whether he had the best sense of humour. I used to try and joke with him, and he'd be a bit blank, But I mean, a brilliant manager for Everton. A brilliant manager. No matter what criticism you get of him now, he was a brilliant manager. And I think Silva can be a better manager than we are currently seeing.
Okay.
And people currently give him credit for.
Do you think the club should do a little bit more to try to convey that personality over to the fans? Just to get... Listen, loads of fans back him. Some fans don't like him because they didn't really want him anyway. They wanted someone with higher credentials, whatever. But he's here and he's the manager. Yeah. So I think the club needs to do a little bit more to sell him to those maybe fans who are a little bit unsure. Would you agree? Or?
Yeah, no, I agree, absolutely. I think... My own feeling is the club needs to do more to sell themselves, full stop. I think, make some personalities. There's not many personalities around the club at the moment, and you need personalities. You need people to be able to see the human side of the club. And I'm not sure we're getting to see the human side of Everton. And there is, there's some great characters there. There really are. And they're not doing anywhere near enough to sell it. And I'm very reluctant to come on here and start comparing Liverpool to Everton. But whether Liverpool...
you have that experience.
But I mean, I go in every week to both clubs, literally every week to both clubs. And I can see that Everton have as many personalities as Liverpool, but they're not promoting it in the same way. Now, is it because Liverpool just have a natural. Klopp, half of his personality is made up. Honestly, believe me.
Without a shadow.
I mean, and I'm not. That's not a criticism of him. He's a great manager, and he's great for us. I'll always back a manager who's good for the media.
Yeah, of course.
Until they start losing, obviously. but he knows how to promote himself. But I think the club also embrace that his promotion of himself and use it as a really big sort of personality thing. Now, also, you get players like James Milner at Liverpool, who actually know how to promote themselves. Everyone says he's boring, but he buys into that. And you can see, they get a lot of stuff behind the scenes that promote personality there. And even Henderson is the same. He's a big character and important character. Now, Everton have got those players, but they're not getting the promotion. The manager doesn't, because his English isn't good enough, doesn't really have the ability to promote himself like Klopp does, but he still has a passion. And he came out and he came out after the weekend and he said, I want you to be more Everton. And then somebody said to him, what is be Everton? And then he had an answer, and he says, Everton is this. And he says, Everton has this in their DNA. Everton has this personality. Everton has this history. And I want passion, I want fight for this club. I want us to play in the way that this club was played. So, and again, it's like, actually, he gets Everton. He knows what Everton is. He's not just, I'm at Everton until it's a stepping stone for another club. He actually answers. He was put on the spot. Okay, I want you to be. He said, I want you to be Everton, and then somebody goes, well, what is Everton? And it's putting him on the spot. And then I reckon if you'd have done that to Sam Allardyce, he'd have gone, and he wouldn't have had an answer.
No.
Silva did have an answer, and actually a lot of it was what Everton
and it made
is.
Sense,
Everton he understands Everton history, and Everton's history is as a big club with a real identity. And Everton have had that identity for, certainly as far back as I remember, and as far back as I can read about. So certainly 50 years, I don't know anything about pre-Second World War Everton, but I know post-Second World War Everton. And the personality and the identity that they had. And, obviously you then get in the 60s and the School of Science and all that.
Course,
but I think Silva understands that. And so I think he knows what you know. I mean, not as well as you know, but he knows that Everton can't just be... Obviously, they need success, but they can't just be a club who can, try and win things by being defensive, play long ball. They can't really do that.
No.
And I think he understands that as well. So, okay, if he does, and I'm guessing that he does, but I've seen evidence that he does. Let's get it out there and show the fans, because I think if the fans really believe that, then that would be some of the battle. And I'll just finish on that by saying Everton, if they beat City, can still go into the top 4 at the weekend, So, and if they beat City and go in the top 4, I mean, it's not impossible. They're not going to win, you would imagine, but
then Norwich beat them, didn't they?
But Norwich beat them, exactly. And if Everton can show passion and commitment and fight and get the fans behind them, they can easily win. If they can show some of what we have seen, and we've been there in all of those games. I've been there when City came top and totally dominant, got battered by Everton. So it can happen. If that happens and they then go in the top 4, then it's not a crisis, is it?
Yeah.
And then if you on the back of that can get the fans to understand the manager actually does know what Everton is and isn't just there for a season, and he's trying to build something, which he says he's trying to build, and he is trying to build.
Yeah.
Then maybe, people will buy into it a bit more. But it takes everyone, it takes the club to change their promotion of him, to change their personality at the moment. The club's personality, what is it? I don't know. What does the owner stand for? I don't know. What does the board stand for? They do a lot of work around the community, but Are they actually engaging with the fans as much as they should be doing? Are they engaging with the media, with you, with me? We're both media. Are they engaging with us? We have different experiences, but we both say they're not engaging as much. So all of these things, it's not just the manager, it's the club, the manager, the players have to buy into it, and the fans too. So,
I can't disagree with any of that. It's exactly what we know. It's great to hear from, obviously, David isn't an Evertonian, so he can use his professional experience to give us that view as well. Big thanks for all your time.
I'd say I'm not an Evertonian, but I've been covering Everton for 30 years. Like in my job, covering Everton for almost 30 years. So I know what Everton is, and I know, being a guy whose job is to cover Everton and to know about Everton. I know what Everton were, are, and can be. So, as much as any diehard fan, I understand. And I believe that Everton can still be that. I genuinely, passionately believe that. And I think the time has come for the club to understand that and to say, this is what Everton, because Everton should be in the top 6. You just said, and quite rightly, Spurs may be the third best, but they're having a nightmare season. United are in disarray. Arsenal are in, a bit of turmoil. Chelsea, I think, will struggle this season. So Everton, had Everton bought 2 more players in the summer, Everton could be challenging for the top 4, never mind top 6. But certainly could be top 6 this season, easily. It's time for the club to grasp that and say, right, this is where we want to be, because we are big enough and have enough about the club and enough history, and the fans are passionate enough for us to be there. And it is that can happen, definitely. But it needs a change of identity within the club, and it also needs the fans to buy into that as well. And I think that can happen and will happen.
Well, I think I absolutely agree, and I think something me and Ped have said is that what is the MO from the club? What is it? It's great having Farhad Sheary in the background doing different things, spending money getting a new ground and blah blah blah. But the club haven't come out and gone. I heard James Maddison at the weekend after he scored the winner against Tottenham saying, "We're a big team now, and we're not afraid to say so." Everton moved the other way from that. Now, okay, if Everton were to beat Man City on Saturday night, would anyone from Everton come out and go, we're a big club, so we will be in that? No, we kind of go, shh, leave us in the shadows a little. And I think that's okay to a certain extent, but I think sometimes you do have to front it up and go, we actually want to be a team that tries to get into that top or tries to win the league. It sounds a million miles away, but I would have laughed at any Liverpool fan in 2015 saying to me, we want to win the league. Well, I did laugh when Klopp said, we want to win the league in 4 years, and this is the 4th year and they might win it. So,
but you made that comparison. It's such a great comparison. Liverpool and Everton were in similar positions when Klopp arrived, and had similar squads, and they've not spent a dissimilar amount of money.
Yeah.
So it certainly is possible if they beat City, and it is a ground where it is a ground and a team and a stadium and a fan base that can beat City.
Yeah.
And if they beat City, I want to hear people come out and afterwards and say, Everton, Goodison Park, is historically, has always been a ground where any team can lose, where the biggest teams can lose, because it is a big club, a huge club with a ground that any side hates playing.
Yeah.
And if they need to come out and say that.
Yeah.
And I want to hear that if they do. And you're right. Don't stop hiding away. Stop playing it down. Nobody wants to go to Goodison.
No.
Nobody, because they always think, if Everton are playing well, the fans are behind them. It's one of the worst places to go in. In European football, and like Liverpool had traded on that in Europe. By
Anfield,
but with Anfield,
definitely.
Everton could be a worse place to go than Anfield. Absolutely.
I remember Frank Lampard saying it's the hardest ground to play.
It absolutely is, but it just takes the belief that it is, and it's there, and it's time. It is time for Everton to kick on. One final thing, and obviously I've gone on far too much, is I also want to know what the owner truly believes in as well, because he's never sat down and told us ever. I've never spoken to him directly. I've never spoken to him.
Which is mad.
It is absolutely mad. I work for the largest selling newspaper on Merseyside by some distance, who still speaks for the fans, and he's never come out directly and addressed the fans through the biggest
and he's owned the club for 3.5 years.
And so where is he? What is he? Where is he at? What does he believe in? I'd love to know that, and I'd love to see that he believes in Everton being a top 4 club.
There's the gauntlet for Everton. Address some of these issues, because it's not just fans saying it. Like David's just said, the North West's biggest selling newspaper hasn't got a clue. We need to reach out. Big thanks to David for your time.
It's great to be here.
And he isn't a Red, remember that. And you've just heard that. So, listen, thanks very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a like. Want more videos showing us on Patreon. And stop giving them a hard time on Twitter.
No, it's fine. I deserve it.
Thanks very much. See you later.